Watching the numbers. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So kicking off, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. We're excited that you're joining us for this important webinar on AI in action, transforming destination marketing and operations. That's a big title, ladies. That's a big title. For those who don't know me, I'm Carrie Tripp. I'm the Director of Product and Sales for Discover New England. And I'd like to actually take a moment and introduce Michelle Coda, our Director for Discover New England.
Thank you so much, Carrie. So I know a number of you have tuned into a few of these webinars, and Carrie has done such a great job bringing in experts in lots of different areas impacting tourism and international marketing. And today is just, couldn't be more relevant, and the timing could not be better for this one. As you know, everyone knows, and we feel like everything is changing fast, how the adoption of AI and how people receive marketing, how they research, how we deliver information, how consumers at different phases of the funnel are impacted by AI, whether they know it or not, or they're using it deliberately. It is really, it is very powerful at creating or amplifying conversions in general and making us more effective as well at having the right information reach the right people. So I do know programs are getting smarter and smarter and smarter, and how programs react to users' tone and sentiment, and how programs, they seamlessly can mirror our tone and branding. It's just really becoming so convincing. And and these experts this morning, they are really paving the way and leading the way in this with a specific focus on our industry, on tourism specifically. So they really do get us. So I don't want to take away from Carrie's introduction of our upcoming speakers, but I do feel this is going to be a very powerful one, and we will be doing hopefully more as the industry continues to evolve. I want to just flag that it was probably about a little less than a year ago, right, Carrie, that we did a training on, not necessarily on best practices and marketing tactics or strategies, but it was more on federal policy and international guidelines as it relates to consumer privacy. So that would be a great training for you to tune in again and just get a little refresher on. So as a lot of you know, especially a lot of our European source markets, GDPR is a very important factor when it comes to what you collect for information and how you, of the consumer, and what you actually save. So that can go hand in hand with, that's something that would be a good foundation to watch as well for after this training, if you haven't seen that already. So I'll stop babbling. I think I had a lot of coffee for a Friday, so I think at this point, I'll turn it back over to Carrie to introduce our speakers this morning and to tell you about this webinar.
Thanks, Michelle. You can keep babbling, because honestly, what you say is really important. And I appreciate you hearkening back to that one we did. It was last April, I believe. And the rules haven't changed since we did that webinar. So if you're not familiar with it, it's definitely worth a listen. So for today, I'm going to begin this presentation by introducing our two guests, who will speak for about 40 minutes, but Jamie and I had a conversation leading into this. So what we want to encourage is, if you have a question in the moment, please type it into the Q&A and I will flag it for Jamie, and we'll do our best to answer on the fly. So that way, when things kind of pop in, we've got it and we can nail it in the moment. So the 40 minutes could give or take a little bit based on the number of questions that come in. And so it'll be on AI tools, strategies, and leveraging AI in your business, and to help provide a roadmap for leveraging that AI to enhance your visitor engagement, boost operational efficiency, and future-proof your destination marketing strategies. Following their discussion, again, if there's more questions at the end, we'll tackle them, but please don't hesitate to ask the question as we go. As always, a recording of this webinar will be on the Discover New England website in our past trainings tab. Usually takes about the day or maybe tomorrow morning, depending on who's available to help me. And then with that, I'd like to begin by introducing Jackie Saunders. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Jackie face to face at the Mass Conference for Tourism just earlier this week. We had some wonderful conversations, and she is just fantastic. So I'm so glad. Jackie will also be joining us at Summit this year. So after this presentation, if you have questions, you'll be able to get right to Jackie. Jackie is a seasoned marketing executive with more than 20 years of extensive experience in destination marketing, communications, and strategy. Most recently, she served as the AVP of marketing at National Harbor, a mixed-use development property and destination just outside of Washington, D.C. Prior to National Harbor, Jackie was the VP of marketing for Visit Loudon, Virginia. Clip Trip, Click Trips and Jackie will be joining us at Summit, like I just said, and they are one of the Monday evening reception sponsors. Then I'd also like to introduce Jamie Claudio, SVP Marketing and Destination Strategies with Click Trips. Jamie has been in the travel and tourism industry for over a decade, and she has served as Vice President of Marketing and Sales for Discover Long Island, during which time she sat on the board of directors for the Long Island State Tourism Industry Association. Jamie also has significant tourism agency experience working in public relations for Development Counselors International and marketing for Madden Media. And I think a lot of us are familiar with Madden. So Jackie, Jamie, please take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carrie. And thank you, Michelle, for creating the space for us today. And thank everybody for joining us 9 a.m. on a Friday morning. I promise to not bore you back to sleep, or at least do my best. Please fire questions. Otherwise, I'm going to talk for 35 minutes and then we all have to listen to me for 35 minutes. So with that, let me share my screen, make sure that we are up and running. Can we see that all right, everybody? Excellent. All right, let's rock and roll in that case. Welcome to Artificial Intelligence in Action, transforming destination marketing and operations. Oops. The problem with working two screens. There we go. As Carrie mentioned, I am Jamie Claudio. I am the SVP of Marketing and Destination Strategy for Click Trips. And oh man, Carrie, did you tee me up so well for the end of this presentation? But I am a lifelong Northeasterner. I hail from Long Island. Northeast is my bread and butter. It's in my soul, in my blood. We were just talking about, I can't imagine living anywhere else. So I am pretty familiar with most of you because I represented a destination that has very similar offerings. All right, so let's crack into it. The 1,000-foot view. Artificial intelligence is changing the world. I am sure that no one just dropped out of their chair just now. That is a known thing. We are all feeling it. We are all sort of living in this 1,000 miles an hour breakneck speed for artificial intelligence, right? One of the things that I do a lot of conferences, I do a lot of speaking, and one of the things that drives me up the wall is when somebody gets up and they say, AI, 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 but they don't give any news you can use, right? To use journalistic parlance. There's no action item. You haven't learned anything. And since I used to sit on your side, we take it very seriously that this should be something that you go, huh, interesting. I didn't know that. I just learned something. So we're going to take that sort of approach as we step through the presentation today. Some of it might be like, duh, we all know this at this point, but we're going to kind of baseline it just so everybody's working from the same playbook at the top. So artificial intelligence, what is that? It refers to the simulation of human intelligence processes by machines, particularly computer systems. So what does that mean in modern marketing? AI is really playing a crucial role because it's enabling personalized customer experiences. It's automating repetitive tasks that used to take time, teams, and interns to do. And it's providing data-driven insights to a level that is really unprecedented. So AI's ability to analyze vast amounts of data is really allowing marketers to understand customer behavior and preferences far more accurately. And this leads to more effective targeting, improved customer engagement, and ultimately higher conversion rates. So specifically, when we take a look at artificial intelligence as pertains to DMO, there's a couple of things that right off the top are really making jumping leagues and bounds in terms of how DMOs are marketing their destinations, right? So you have that personalized visitor engagement. You can have AI-powered chatbots and virtual assistants that are providing 24/7 traveler support without you having to staff it. You've got predictive analytics that can really tailor content and recommendations based on a visitor's behavior. We can hyper-target marketing campaigns in a way we've never been able to do before, because AI allows us to analyze search trends, user intent, and optimize and target accordingly. You've also got dynamic content ads, right? Which can adapt in real time based on your audience demographics and interests. Enhanced data-driven decision making, right? So we brought this up already, but you can process vast amounts of data, far more than somebody would take somebody to read through, right? And then extrapolate key details that are actually going to help you move the needle in a much faster way. Content generation and automation. So there's AI tools out there that'll create blog posts, social media content, ad copy, and I'll show you one or two in a second here. But an automated video creation, voiceover. We actually use voiceover AI in some of our content videos just because it's so human at this point that you don't really need to pay a VO person anymore. Predictive and real-time insights again. So the forecasting tourism trends, and we can step through some of that. But for those proactive marketing solutions, the real-time data tracking, and then the optimizations that come against that. And then finally, AI-powered visual and conversational experiences. And we'll spend a chunk of time later here in this particular arena because it's important. So things like augmented reality, you guys are familiar with, some of you have maybe even dabbled with, particularly looking from an international marketing perspective. But you have conversational artificial intelligence. So this enables things like seamless booking, itinerary adjustments, in-destination visitor troubleshooting, again, all without you having to staff this, right? So you can actually use these things to speak to, communicate, work with, make a traveler's life easier. But you can also use conversational marketing to woo potential travelers and to woo potential suppliers that may be thinking about several different destinations, but we can utilize this to sort of whet the appetite, say, hey, think about our destination. And we'll show you how in a minute. All right, so if anybody is feeling like this girl on a Friday morning, I want you to know two things. One, you are not alone. Two, you have come to the right session. This is what we're going to start to break down and try and make this digestible. And again, that news you can use. So here's what we're going to step through today, what we're downloading, if you will. First, we're going to start with the basics. What is generative artificial intelligence and how does it function? Then we're going to step through prompt engineering and its role in AI interactions. We'll move into some practical applications of AI in conversational marketing. Take a look at some insights from real-world examples. And then we're going to end with best practices for implementing AI strategies. What are those key performance indicators that you should be looking at when you're thinking about / you have started working with artificial intelligence solutions? And then finally, determining impact. What does that ROI look like? AI is so new. How do we qualify and quantify what our successes are in working with AI solutions? So first up, the basics of generative artificial intelligence. What is it? How does it work? How is it different than other AI? And how can you actually walk out of this meeting and start applying it to some of the things that you do, either from a marketing perspective or just from an organizational perspective today? So AI is this like really big umbrella term, and there's a lot of different AI capabilities. They serve different purposes, and that's an important thing to know. Like just AI for AI's sake really doesn't do any good for anybody, right? There's different AIs that solve for different challenges that you may be having. You've got things like machine learning, natural language processing, deep learning, robotics. All of these are actually different areas underneath the artificial intelligence landscape, if you will. For our purposes as destination marketers, the one we really want to focus on is generative artificial intelligence. And that's going to create everything from conversational marketing to text copy, code, images, audio, video, all of those things. So generative AI is kind of where we're going to live today. What's the difference, right? I know what AI is. AI does AI. So here's the difference between your traditional AI, if you will, and generative. Traditional AI is extremely good at incorporating data that you give it, analyzing it, recognizing patterns, and then making decisions based on predefined rules or learned patterns that you've taught this machine. It is incredibly powerful for data analysis and extrapolation. But where it comes up short short, if you will, is it's not going to take that data and come up with anything new. It's not going to extrapolate any new information that isn't within those data parameters, right? That's the framework with which it can work in. Alternatively, generative artificial intelligence actually takes data and parameter input and is capable of producing original output out of that. It is, as the name suggests, capable of generation. So let's take a look at a couple of different things that you can actually apply from a generative AI standpoint. AI in content generation. This one is incredibly important. So when I was at Discover Long Island as the VP of Marketing and Sales, I had a team of 1 on my comms department, right? And this chick was amazing, but it was press releases, social media content, blog posts, you know, you name it because you live it, so you get it. It's a lot of content that we as destination marketers need to be generating, and it has to be continuous, right? We can't just set it and forget it. Oh, we wrote a blog 6 months ago. Our content here is done, right? So it's a rat race to keep up with all of that. AI can simplify that so well. There's tools like Jasper or Copy AI that can actually help you organize. It can help you build social media calendars. It can write your content. It learns your brand tone and your brand voice. It's really, really potent for taking your team of 1 and turning her into a team of 5, right? Because of the ability to really release some of those time constraints. 1 grain of salt with this. Always, always, always read, review, make sure what AI is turning out for you from a content generation standpoint has your brand tone, has your brand voice, is using the words and the jargon that you would typically use to describe yourself. You can get this ripped up as a first draft, but I really, really recommend that you don't solely rely on AI and call it, oh, it wrote that, post your blog. It's important that you kind of have that oversight as the brand stewards and the brand experts. Generative AI in art and design. Again, having lived this life, you know, productions are expensive. Photo shoots where you hire models and you have to get your permits and, you know, videographers and whatever you need within that realm. It's very expensive and it's very time consuming. And there's definitely a lot of play where you still need to be handling that from a manual, you know, unique content creation standpoint. But there's a lot of things too that you can use generative AI in art and design for that can make life easier. So if you need to do, you know, again, a blog post or a quick social media hit, you know, these smaller level creative items that you maybe only have the 1 designer or 2, right? You utilize this to expand upon that. I like to use DALL-E, which is part of the OpenAI suite. So you can actually find DALL-E, DALL-E right within your ChatGPT, if for anyone who's using OpenAI for their GPT needs. And it's great because you can really prompt this to give you imagery that that works and resonates against what you're trying to accomplish. So here in this example, right, I've said, create an image of a pirate driving a convertible in a July 4th parade. Give me 2 options. And this is the immediate output of it. And it's pretty spot on. I mean, considering what I asked it to do, right? Again, these are awesome, but always take it with a grain of salt. For example, on the right-hand side, it is highly doubtful that our pirate in our United States July 4th parade is going to be driving from the right-hand side of the car, right? So again, you got to be careful with this stuff, but it does, I mean, it can take you a long way. On the ChatGPT note, that's we at ClickTrips sort of live and die by ChatGPT. We work exclusively with OpenAI. Anyone who's using the free version, please stop. Don't do it anymore. Go ahead and spend that 20, it might be 25, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's $20 a month for the 4.0 for the extended version of that. What the difference between those 2 GPTs is free ChatGPT is according to the latest model that they have released publicly, which I believe is 2022, although they may have put another model out. But when you pay for the $20 a month subscription, you're getting the one that's constantly being updated, upgraded. And so it's going to have a much more robust sort of conversational ability with you. I liken it to the difference between talking to a teenager and talking to an actual adult. Those are your differences, right? So you're gonna get okay answers out of your teenager, out of your free version, but definitely worth having that $20 a month subscription, because then you get access to all of this and all of those real-time data updates. Generative AI in music, right? So, I mean, for all of us marketers, how much time have you spent looking for rights-free music, or, negotiating, I'd like this song, but I can only use it on broadcast and I can only use it for 3 months. And then if I want to put it on my website, it's a whole nother, right? We've all done that song and dance. It's difficult and it can be very pricey. If nothing else, it's always time consuming. You can use artificial intelligence to create your own music tracks. So this is going to be music that is specifically for your destination. It's not going to be in another commercial. It's not going to be, somewhere else. I had that once at Discover Long Island. We worked really hard. I built this 30-second commercial and I was so proud of it. We were, spent a ton of money on the production. It was beautiful, beautiful commercial. We purchased, I don't know, it was like $50 for this royalty-free music. And I remember being in the kitchen and I hear the TV's on in the living room and I hear my commercial come on because I know the music, right? I've listened to it a million times at this point. I get so excited. I go running into the living room. It's a commercial for a local dentist. They had used the same exact music track that we had. And it was a real kind of aha light bulb moment on top of being disappointing. Like, oh, how'd they find that too? But this is a great way to bypass that. So in this particular case, the example here I have up is Musicify. There are lots of different options for this. Some are paid, some you can do on a cheaper, but it depends on how much you need from a music generation standpoint. All right, buckle up because this one's crazy. I still can't believe this happens. AI and virtual influencers. You can actually create brand ambassadors, brand influencers for your social channels that are not real people. Neither of these examples here are real people, but you can see here that Lil Michaela, she's got 2.6 million followers. This Fit Aitana has 317,000 followers, right? So you actually can use artificial intelligence to create these brand characters that create loyalty, that drive affinity, that bring interest to your destination in a completely alternative way, right? In this real personified way. This Fit Aitana on the right is $1,000 per post to collaborate with. Again, this isn't even a real person. So it's pretty wild what you have the ability to do and to expand upon in terms of a very different track for particularly reaching, Gen Zs and the younger audience. This is a great way to sort of play around in a fun, again, brand ambassador type of way. Okay, so those are a couple of examples right off the top. Excuse me, I'll take a sip of water. How do they do all of those things, right? Like, that's great. I would love the ability to write a blog faster and to, have AI create an image that I can use on my social post or what have you. But how does that actually work? I want to peel back the curtain a little bit and talk about the behind the scenes of generative artificial intelligence and how it does what it does. So generative artificial intelligence is capable of all of these things, and it's capable of generation output. But what it's not capable of is going out and doing it on its own, right? There's a real human element that has to be included. And this is really going to be an important element of our session because it's going to help you understand the behind the scenes of generative AI and also hopefully provide a little more sleep at night knowing that generative AI isn't going to overtake all of our jobs because it still requires us to be salient and to get those done competently. So as I said, the human side. Prompt engineering, prompts, is what influences AI responses because it's providing context and direction for the AI to generate relevant and coherent outputs. So think about it in terms of building a house, right? If you use a ChatGPT as a foundation, and this is how we build our AI at ClickTrips, and I'll show you the kind of behind the scenes of that in a minute too. But your foundation is your concrete, right? It's you dig that hole in the ground, you pour your concrete. That's your foundation of your house. That's a GPT. Okay, that's a large language model GPT. Now, when you go to build the structure of the house, you build those walls, you build the roof. Now you've created a space. Within this space is my house. Outside of that space is not my house. Prompt engineering does the same thing to that ChatGPT foundation. It says, here's what you can operate within. Here's where you can't operate. Here's how to behave when you're operating within this space that we've designated as ownership for you. So when you when you have a well-crafted response, you can really guide the AI to focus on specific topics, use particular tones, follow a desired format, and typically it leads to more accurate and useful responses as that GPT starts to learn and understand what you're looking for. Conversely, if you don't prompt engineer a GPT well, you're going to get ambiguous outputs, you're going to get low quality or irrelevant responses. So effective prompt engineering, again, the human component that's being fed into the back end of this chat GPT in this case, but a GPT when we're looking at generative AI, is really what is going to help deliver against the user's intent. So to just give a visual example of that, think about how you use a GPT, right? You go in and you type a question, and sometimes it's like, tell me about Universal Studios Orlando in this particular case. Why is that bad? It's pretty vague. You haven't given the AI enough to work around. It doesn't fully understand what you're looking to glean from that, right? It is broad. It's not highlighting what the specifics are. There's no real context or specific angles, so it's difficult for the AI to give a focused response. And it's kind of unclear, right? What exactly do you want to know? You want to know the history? You want to know when it was created? You want to know how to skip the lines? There's a lot, that ChatGPT can, or that GPT can answer for you, but you haven't defined it, right? So that is the user prompt experience. Conversely, if we say, as a destination ambassador for Universal Studios Orlando, how would you describe a perfect day for families with young children, including must-see attractions, dining options, and tips for avoiding long lines? This is a really good prompt for AI. You've clearly defined the exact topics you're interested in. You've asked for specific information. You've provided context. I'm looking for family-friendly options. And you've provided a clear set of angles and goals for the GPT to focus on: dining, long lines, etc. I have an 8-year-old daughter, as well as that cute little one you saw in the beginning. And she's really into art. So she spends a lot of time working with DALL-E, the image generator that I shared with you. And so I'm teaching her about prompting, right? So give me a picture of a mermaid versus give me a picture of a mermaid who is swimming in the Caribbean while the sun is setting. The more specificity that you provide to any AI, the better the results you're going to get. And so this is something that you guys can practice right away. Think about how you are requesting information, and have you given that AI enough information that it's going to give you the specifics that you're really looking for. So I encourage you guys to play around with this. Now, prompt engineering is the exact same process, except what we're doing is we're building that into the back end. We are creating these relevant prompts that then wrap a GPT and put parameters on it. This is a terrifying example. No, we're not going to talk about taxes. I mentioned I'm from New York. It's a sore subject as far as I'm concerned. But this is a really good example of the iterative ways that prompt engineering AI in the back end can produce completely unique outputs. So there's 3 examples here, and I won't totally read them all to you, but this is all, again, that foundation, same GPT. So when you fine tune a model, it's saying, I'm not paying taxes to a government that doesn't represent me. But then if we prompt engineer a little more diversity, we add, hey, it's okay if you do typos, punctuation errors, whatever, right? So we can actually teach AI that. It's going to prompt the same exact kind of output as we've taught it to do. So you can see here, there's capitalizations, there's bad punctuation, because we told that AI it was okay to do that. And then finally, you can, again, you can set it. So this third example here, it's randomness. We say, hey, don't worry about being coherent particularly. Hey, go ahead and add a viewpoint that says that you really hate taxes in all of your responses. And you're going to see that output. Same GPT, same prompt, but because of the prompt engineering in the back end, it's created a completely different model with the responses. So that's a slightly terrifying example, but for us as marketers and as destination marketers specifically, this is a huge opportunity for us to harness artificial intelligence, and then prompt engineer it to kind of bend it to our will and craft it into what becomes a really fine-tuned destination agent for you. And we'll step through some of that. All right, so we're going to kind of start to pigeonhole here off of AI and generative AI 101 and move into some conversational marketing specific activations. So first, and this really does bear reading, in an era where instant personalized communication is not just appreciated, but expected, conversational marketing stands at the forefront of visitor engagement. Think about how you live your life, right? You text message, social media, WhatsApp. There's these instant smartphones. It's weird. You call someone when you can't reach someone now, right? That used to be normal back in the day, but now you're like, they didn't answer me back in 5 minutes in my text. Or we're used to instantaneous communication. Technology has brought us as a species to a point where we've come to expect that in our day-to-day interactions. So of course, if we expect that from our day-to-day interactions, we as consumers, we as potential visitors, we as viewers are going to expect that of our businesses as well. It's important to be able to provide instantaneous communication and to do it at scale. And particularly, working in the international market, we're talking about a very big scale. And this poses some really inherent challenges to organizations of, a team of 8, a team of 9. How do we meet that demand and how do we do it at the size and volume and the speed with which our target audience is expecting of us? And you don't have to take my word for it, just a couple of quick stats here. And I do have the sources for these. No, it is not ChatGPT, but I'm happy to provide them in post. 90% of consumers want to be able to use messaging to communicate with businesses. 53% of consumers are more likely to purchase from a company or book a trip in this case, right, that they can message directly. 67% increase in leads for brands that are using chatbots for customer service. And 95% the amount of customer interactions that will happen through AI in 2025. That last one is from SimpleView, so we're going to hold them to it. Let's get to the end of the year and see what happens on that one. All right, so how do we prompt engineer a brand ambassador, right? A destination agent. So we think about that taxes example, right? And that's how we think about we're manipulating it. Well, again, we can do the same thing in theory, but we can apply it for our destination. So at ClickTrips, the way that we build our independent AI models for destinations is thus. We take only a destination's website. We can take ancillary supplemental materials, but that is the framework of our house. We say, hey, anything that's not found within this website is not content that you can use. So if I have a model for Boston, right, for example, and we were to ask, how tall is the Empire State Building? Boston doesn't want that model being able to respond with information about a competitive destination. So we wrap it only within a destination's website and supplemental materials. And then we store it. We train ChatGPT-4 specifically on this, and we create an independent model, an independent artificial intelligence conversational model built on that specifically for that destination. So you can see here in the middle, we call our product Chime. That's why you see Chime here. Then the prompt engineering, we say, this is all of the data, all of the information, all of the content you can pull from. Now, this is how you respond. You speak in a positive and welcoming manner. You are a representative of this destination. When you get negative or erroneous questions, here's how to respond to them, right? So if somebody starts, cursing at the thing, we don't want it to start cursing back, right? There's brand safety issues around that. You always speak in the same tone and voice that you can find on the website. So for example, you're going to see some destinations talk in first person about their destination. Some organizations talk in third person. Chime is trained to pick up on that, right? To respond and to speak exactly like that. So we take all the information from the website, we prompt engineer it, we build that house around it, and we turn it from ChatGPT into Chime. And then we unleash it out into the world, right, on travel publisher websites. So what this does is when someone poses a question, a la, how tall is the Empire State Building? The Boston model is going to take that, is going to run through its Rolodex, its lexicon, if you will, of content that it has available. And it's going to respond almost immediately with, you know, I'm not sure of the answer to that, but the architecture in downtown Boston is incredibly stunning. And that's the response that we're looking for, right? You know, what are the best events? What's the best time of year to come? How do I get there from Denver? All of these things, you know, these kind of general queries that, you know, our potential visitors have are going to be wrapped within this. And then that becomes essentially your digital visitor services kiosk, right? This is it's out in the world operating as your destination agent. So what's really the difference here?
Jamie,
10
can I
minutes,
ask a
Carrie?
question before
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
move on? So this kind of comes back to a conversation I was actually having at Governor's Conference in Massachusetts. If you are a larger DMO, and we do have a couple of these folks on the call today, if you're a larger DMO and you've got more than just one destination, so say you're a state or a super region kind of a destination, is it still just your website that Chime is pulling from or ClickTrips is pulling from? Or is it possible to have other websites that are part of what is acceptable to pull from?
That's a great question. The short answer is any of the above works for us. We can typically, when we work with a single destination, they want just their content, right? But when we look at states, we absolutely can incorporate your local and municipal DMOs websites within that content parameter, right? So, you know, Massachusetts may have a ton on Boston, but they may not have a ton on Mashpee on the Cape, right? We can actually work with the Cape Cod DMO to ingest their content into the Massachusetts model in full. There are some considerations around that in terms of how the model produces what we call deep links back. So, and I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole on that, but the short answer is yes, it absolutely can be done. And I mean, if you wanted to pull in 8 different websites and have the model's lexicon be trained around those 8, it's entirely doable.
And that doesn't mess up the voice, if you will, if there's all these different ones.
So
Or
we would work with you when, yeah, if we're looking at that, we would work with you to kind of establish brand parameter rules outside of, because typically if it's one website, it's like, hey, we talk in first person, that's how we talk, etc. But we would actually, in this particular case, because of the nuance of that kind of a model, we would prompt engineer specific prompts into that. We would say, hey, you know, are you guys first person or third person? Do you prefer, you know, we would work with you, and then we would kind of inject that specific personality and say, this is who you are and how you operate. These are the 8 websites of content that you can pull from.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Of course. Happy to. By all means, guys, ask questions, because again, I will drone on forever and it's not good for anybody. All right. So seeing is believing, right? What's the inherent difference here? Like, why can't I just use ChatGPT, or why can't I, you know, use something like that I can just throw on WhatsApp and call it a day? Here's a great example of that. So standard ChatGPT responses versus a prompt engineered response. And in this case, this is our Chime unit response. So I asked ChatGPT, is Puerto Rico safe for LGBTQ plus travelers? ChatGPT responds, as my last update in 22, Puerto Rico is generally considered to be welcoming and safe. The island has made progress in terms of growing acceptance. Nothing wrong with that answer. ChatGPT has given me the response that I need based on the query that I posed. However, from a destination marketing perspective, that is not exactly what Discover Puerto Rico wants as the lead response to that kind of a question, right? We've done nothing from an actual affinity and brand loyalty perspective there. But if I prompt Puerto Rico's Chime model with the same thing, is it safe for LGBTQ plus travelers? Look at the tonality change. Puerto Rico is one of the most LGBTQ friendly islands in the Caribbean, and we welcome everyone with open arms. We prioritize inclusivity, equality, love, etc. And then at the bottom here, it might be a little hard to see, but it's not for more information, just go to discoverpuertorico.com. It's for more information, go to discoverpuertorico.com/things-to-do/LGBTQ travel. All right. Chime understands that that is the most relevant landing page based on the query posed. And so it's going to take the user, it's going to bypass the homepage. It's going to go directly to the landing page where that user can continue the experience directly on the destination site. And I hit that we pretty heavy because Puerto Rico talks about their destination in first person. Alternatively, Traverse City talks about their destination in third person. So this is one always cracks me up. what I prompted was, is Traverse City boring? For anyone that doesn't know, Traverse City is a really lovely city in Michigan and is super not boring. But just for the purposes of the exercise, is Traverse City considered boring? ChatGPT. Whether it's considered boring or not can be subjective, depends on individual preference and interests. Located in Michigan, is known for its beauty, etc. You know, it's good answer. It answered as it should based on having the entire World Wide Web and everything content-wise available. Excuse me. But it certainly didn't make me want to rush out and book a trip to Traverse City. Traverse City's Chime model, however, Traverse City is anything but boring. It's stunning natural beauty, vibrant community, wide range of activities, always something exciting happening here. Again, it's that same user query, but because we've prompt engineered in the back end, we have created a much more powerful tool specific to our destination for users to interact with. All right, we're getting on, I promise. Okay. So enhancement at scale, right? Conversational marketing, it's essential for marketers because it's enabling that real-time, that personalized interaction with visitors. It's enhancing their overall experience. We know from the statistics I shared before that this is what people are expecting, and this is how you can bring it to them at scale without going out and, enhancing your team to 64, right? Because that's just not the reality of the world that we live in or how we operate. So let's use artificial intelligence to help us expand upon that and meet the consumer demand here. It's going to allow you to provide that instantaneous support, answer questions, leveraging the chatbots for 24/7 engagement, all of those things. All right, I'm going to go through this section and then I'm going to skip a few just because time. All right, so let's look at some practical applications. How can you actually use conversational marketing specifically in some of your initiatives? Creating personalized itineraries. This one I think is a particularly interesting one for this group when we think about the international audience and the varying degrees of awareness that the international audience has, and also simply as like a travel trade tool. I mean, it could be really cool to be able to supply this kind of thing for suppliers. We do not build itineraries, to be very clear. That's not a Click Trips thing, but it is a very cool component that a lot of AI companies, a la Travefy, are doing. So that's a way that you can practically apply conversational generative artificial intelligence into your marketing. You can build individual tour guides. This is really cool, this ChatGPT tour. And again, if you're a smaller destination, this may not be relevant for you, but those larger ones or those regionals, like take a look at some of these opportunities. Because imagine if you had the ability to pull up little tour guides of all of your attractions and all of those major things that are within your destination. So I think this is a really cool application of it. And using brand ambassadors and digital media, right? So this is where Click Trips comes into the game. So one of the differences that we bring to the table is there's a lot of people in our space that build really beautiful, powerful, functional models specific for your website. So Satisfy Labs, Guide Geek, and we love those guys. They're great, and they build really cool models for your site. What we do is we actually take that conversational model and we put it out on travel publisher websites. It becomes a really high impact display unit. So you can actually start using conversational AI in your marketing endeavors. And so along with, of course, all your traditional digital metrics, you're getting really interesting insights from the marketplace. And you can see that on the right here. We, on a monthly basis, tally up all of the queries that were posed to the model while it was out in the wild on these travel publisher websites. And we say, hey, you know what, this month, most questions came in about local experiences. And then it was, right, and we can go down. And what gets interesting here is you understand marketplace insights in real time. Hey, this is what people are asking about and looking for, my destination. But you can see trends over time too. You see ones that aren't unsurprising. Like accommodation starts to come up as we start to head into peak season. I would assume that to be the case. It would be odd if it wasn't, right? But there are really funky things too that start to come to light out of this. And just a really quick example, we have a destination in the South who has had a food festival for eons and eons. Really, the DMO kind of stopped thinking about it in terms of marketing from a tourism and visitation perspective, because they were like, no, it's just kind of our local event. Well, we saw in the 2 months leading up prior to this food festival, a ton of user queries about it. When is it? Where is it? Where's parking? How do I get to this? Is so-and-so going? Those sorts of things. And it actually prompted the DMO to go, well, I guess it's probably time to write some new content on this, or, maybe let's think about how we do some social media posts around this, because clearly the marketplace has demonstrated a demand that we weren't really thinking about. So you get all this really cool insight when you start to play around with it from this perspective. Real world examples. I'm going to give you one. There's a couple, but I'm going to give you one just from a time perspective. And I'm going to give you my favorite one, which is, this is not necessarily new. In fact, they don't actually do this anymore, but this is one of the most creative, impressive uses of conversational media that I have seen to date. So I'm going to share it with you. So this is from the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. And they created a campaign called Send Me SFMOMA, right? So what they did is they built an AI that had their entire inventory is not the right word when you're in a museum, but you know what I'm saying, all their catalog. So everything that was out, but all of the stuff that was in stores that they didn't have the space to share, with their actual real-time visitors. And they had over 50,000 pieces in their collection. So what they did is they trained an AI on the entirety of the collection, and then they opened it up so where people could text. So you could actually send a text message to San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, and you could use anything you want, right? So you could send it an emoji, which so on that third example there, right? You could send it a specific request, but you could really play around with it. So everything from like people requesting the word sad to a fried egg emoji, they got to interact with all these people. And then what they would do is based on the emoji, based on the prompt that you texted them, they would return a relevant piece of art out of their catalog, right? Out of their 50,000. So you can see here, send me love. Here's a picture, or I'm not sure if it's painting, poster, what have you, right? So they would actually return a piece of art out of their catalog based on any kind of silly prompt that you could give. And people really fell in love with it. It was a great way to reach a much wider audience than just those that had intentions of actually coming and visiting the museum. People started to really play around with this. Let me see here, then, because the numbers were really wild. So they ran it for 3 years, and they delivered over 6,422,646 pieces of artwork were texted, right? That's how many people interacted with this thing and played with it. From a media coverage perspective, I am a PR girl at heart, so I'm always after media coverage. But there was, it just blew up because it was so unique and so nuanced in how they really not only were able to expand their collection, expand their audience, and garner these results, but in a fun and playful way that made people think about the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, maybe in a way that they hadn't before or wasn't on their radar at all. And there was a ton of positive feedback, right? The proof's always in the pudding. So it was really, really well received by the public as well. It's just such a fun example. I love this one because it's so unique. All right, let's bring it home. Best practices. Key takeaway: do not do AI for the sake of AI. I know your boards may be pushing you every conference you go to. Again, AI is a drinking game. But don't do it just to do it, right? Do it because you're solving for a need or a challenge you have. That's where you start. Not like, oh, we got to think about how to use AI. No, it's what are the challenges we're currently facing, or what are the opportunities we don't have the bandwidth to go after and secure, and what AI would be able to help us in that vein. That's always how you're going to want to look at when you're starting. So you're going to define your objectives, right? What are you looking to achieve? And it could be anything. Maybe it's, oh, we really want those personalized itineraries, or, hey, we really want a conversational media unit, or we really need help creating content that we can use. So if your goal is to improve customer service, look for AI tools that specialize in that. For content creation, you're going to want to look for tools, again, that specialize in that. It's not a one size fits all by any stretch of the imagination, even within the generative artificial landscape, not even just AI writ large, right? There's a lot of different solutions. Figure out your need first. This one's important. They're all important. This one's important too, though. evaluate the ease and of integration and usability, right? There's a lot of AI out there, but look for ones that seamlessly integrate with the platforms and the systems that you're already using. And if you're like, hey, I have a simple view website and I really want this chatbot, like how does that work? Come find us. We'll talk to you. We will happily step you through that. But anybody who does this that is worth their salt will say, hey, this is not a great integration for you, or this is. But it's important because you don't want to reinvent your own wheel, thus producing more headache and more work to get this up and running, right? So you want to look for tools that can seamlessly integrate. And think about the ease of use for your team, right? So there's a lot of tools that have intuitive interfaces that provide robust customer support, all of these things. So it's important that you find an AI that not only helps you, meet that challenge or fill that need, but is also, it can be digested by your team, that it doesn't become this like, oh God, we're supposed to be using this, but we don't know how to, work the buttons. Like it should be a user-friendly experience. Otherwise your teams aren't going to use it. Scalability and customization. You want tools that are going to grow with you, right? And whether that's we need to be able to answer 1,000 queries an hour in peak season, but it's cool if we're only answering 4 an hour in January, right? We need you need AI that's going to scale up and down with you depending on need times, depending on resources. And that's going to be important at the top when you start to think about or work with an AI vendor. How scalable is this? Is there a ceiling I'm going to hit? And do I need to be thinking about that in terms of my higher volume, higher need periods? All right, determining impact. I promise I'm almost done pontificating to you. So how do we determine impact, right? Like AI is so new. What do those KPIs look like? Like how do we as an organization say, okay, we've implemented this artificial intelligence to solve for this need. Here's how we know it's working. So I'm going to end real quick here. I'm going to leave you briefly. I'm going to give you 8 KPIs specific to when we think about generative AI and conversational marketing to a degree. 1, user engagement. Has the tool that you have put into the public's hands been engaged with, right? That's a very good metric of, if people are using this thing, there's efficacy to it. If people are not, that can be an indicator we maybe need to tweak it. We need to think about an alternative way to use this AI, et cetera, right? But user engagement, real core. Response accuracy. Again, let's go back to that Meet Boston example. If I say, how tall is the Empire State Building? And it gives me an answer, we've got an inaccuracy issue here. So response accuracy is incredibly important. And this is why when we build off of DMO websites, there's a brand safety guarantee into how we build this, because we understand, particularly as former DMOers ourselves, how important accuracy and response is. Resolution rate, did we resolve an issue without needing human interaction, right? Did that artificial intelligence solve for, hey, my hotel got canceled and I need a new one, and without our visitor service, getting a phone call or having to deal with that? How much bandwidth is it taking away from our team that frees them up to do other real necessary human things? Visitor satisfaction, you guys are no stranger to this, asking post-interaction surveys, feedback forms, putting it on social, things of that nature. What's the response? Are they liking it? Is it working for them? What can we glean that maybe we can tweak because we weren't thinking about, but they put it out there, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Conversion rate. This is, again, we're marketers. That's not a surprising metric for us. But in terms of AI, how many interactions actually led to desired actions, right? So if I think about it in the click trips context, when we are putting this model out on travel publisher platforms, I love when people interact with the model, they ask it questions, etc. But what I'm looking for is the demonstrated propensity of I'm interested enough that I'm going to click through and go to the DMO website. Right? So how many desired actions are being taken based on the level of interactions with the AI itself? Sentiment analysis too, and this kind of is on both sides. This is on does my model have the proper sentiment analysis, but also the sentiment analysis of my potential visitors or my visitors that are interacting with it, right? That tone, is it positive, neutral, negative? You're going to get a lot, from the visitor side out of that post-interaction feedback, but it's also important to just be checking in on the health of your AI in general. We go in and we will actually just randomly hammer on our models. We actually have a team that just goes in on a daily basis and tests all our different models just to make sure. AI is a bit of a wild west. So, we want to make sure that that's clean. Carrie, I see you. Load handling capability. Again, that's make sure that it's scalable. And then cost savings. Have did you not have to hire someone because you have this, or did it make it so much easier that your team was able to do X, Y, Z? Those are the things you should be thinking about. And again, you'll have this in posts from Carrie and her team, so I won't kind of carry on. In the next wave, stay educated and informed. Invest in training and development, particularly for your teams. If you're going to bring this stuff on, make sure that they're trained on it. Foster a culture of innovation. Don't be afraid of this stuff. It's really not scary. And then collaborate with AI experts. But most importantly, stay curious. This stuff happens fast, furious. It's changing all the time. It keeps us on our toes and we're living in it. So it's really important to have a very open mindset when you're approaching this. All right, now that is the end of the presentation, but I am not done talking. And here's why. So as Carrie mentioned, fabulous Jackie will be at the D&E Summit here in just a couple of weeks. It's crazy how fast it's coming up, but you will not see her there as Click Trips. You guys are the first to see Cats Out of the Bag. On April 2nd, we will be rebranding to Tiki. We have been around for a long time, about 14 years. It's been Click Trips the entirety of that time, and it was really time to give a facelift and a brand refresh for ourselves. So I give you this whole big spiel about AI is Click Trips, but I want you to know going into D&E, and then as we go, you're going to be seeing us as Tiki as we move forward. So we'll bait and switch for you there, but when you see Jackie next week, it'll be a Tiki business card. You can ask her for one. They're pretty rad. I like our brand colors, if I do say so myself. And with that, I pass the baton back.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. And exactly the reason I stumbled over in the beginning, right, is part of the reason why it's being changed. And I stumble a lot, so don't take it from me.
Oh, you're not the only one. Trust me. There's there's market research put into why we changed the name.
Yeah. I bet. So I think that was so fantastic, Jamie. Thank you so much. You answered a lot of the questions I had going into this, which was absolutely fantastic. I think, for me, one of the most important couple really important takeaways from this is that be specific about the platforms you're using. Be thoughtful about how it's collecting the information, right? Your examples were so incredible about just a traditional ChatGPT versus something that is very specific to the tourism, to the destination, I guess I should say. And I think that was eye-opening. Okay, one quick question. Going way back to the beginning, you showed like the pictures and using AI to create the pictures. Are there licensing things that people should be aware of, concerned about, or not really?
So that is a great question. There's a bit of a battle going on right now in terms of who owns the rights to that, whether because it's been created by AI. So there's some, the short answer is it hasn't been flushed out. There's no legality around it right now. And I add that caveat because, again, things are changing with exponential speed. So there's a lot, and lawyers like to keep themselves busy, and so they're all trying to figure this out. And I'm sure at some point they will hand down the letter of the law that we will all have to adhere to. But it is a unique creation, so you are not hitting any copyright infringements.
Okay.
However, if you ask it to make me a picture of Beyonce riding a hot air balloon through the downtown streets of Boston, I don't know why Boston's my key example today, it will do that, but you're gonna face some legal implications there. So be mindful of how you utilize it. I'd love to see a pretty sunset over the harbor of Boston and make sure there's balloons in it. Fine, that's fine. But so just be thoughtful of it, and also know that things are changing very quickly. So what I say today may not be the case from a legal perspective tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. So in closing, I really want to thank you both. This is amazing information, great conversation. Again, Jackie will be with us at summit. She will be there the whole time and open to all of your questions, more conversations. If people think of questions after this and want to pass them along, I am positive that Jackie and Jamie wouldn't mind hearing from folks. So just let me know and I'll put you in contact. Thank you for everyone who has tuned in. I really appreciate it. I want to give a couple of quick reminders. So talking about Summit, we do have Education Day coming up on April 7th. It's the first day of Summit, and we are moving in this model to make education more of the focus on that first day. This year, if you are registered for Summit, it's free to attend. If you are not registered for Summit or there's other folks in your business that you think would benefit from being there for education, it is only $50 for the day. The topics we'll be going over will be New England's international update, Brand USA's, so USA international update, New England booking trends. We'll have a fantastic media panel where you get to talk to international media and have them answer your questions specifically about how to work with them, great things to do, wrong things to do, all of that good information. And then we will be having at 3 o'clock a session called Maximize Your Summit Success, Strategies for Receptive and International Operators. This will be presented by Alon Tourism Solutions and IITA. This is a continuing model for what we have been working on over the last year with both those fantastic organizations. This is going to be a really key kind of piece of information, way to kind of position yourself appropriately during the next 2 days of the summit. And then on the 18th of April, they'll be doing a follow-up for that called Maximizing Your Summit Success. So it's about, you've made the connection, now what? Turning your leads into long-term successes. So I just plug those. Please pass that wide and far. And if you're not signed up for the day, please do so, because it's going to be fantastic. After that's over, there's a 2-hour reception that ClickTrip/Tiki is hosting with us. So we're so excited about that. And then I also want to mention we have an upcoming sales mission to the UK and Ireland on May 26th through the 30th. I believe I have one spot available. If people are interested in attending, please feel free to reach out to me, ask any questions you want, or there's more information on the events and campaign page on our website. And as always, this recording will be shared on our website shortly. The wonderful Whitney Raymond, who's on this call, not knowing it, is going to help me get the right slides in order to put this up there, because she is absolutely amazing and my favorite person. So thank you so much. And again, thank you for attending. Jamie, Jackie, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of the information and all of your time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate being here, and have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, you too.